This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Guardian Radio Today is brought to you by Bahamar, the Free National Movement, and Prince Masters.
TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Good afternoon, Bahamas. Good afternoon to everyone that's listening and streaming from anywhere and everywhere in the world. You're tuned in now to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, and this is Guardian Radio Today. And of course, if it's Friday and it's 2 p.m., then I'm your host, Robin Lyons. It's a pleasure to be here with you in your company. And I'm joined by my sister and friend, Manita Verens, and I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a moment. But as I told you last week, we're going to be talking about women in leadership. This is November, so you have women's suffrage being observed. You have National Women's Week. You have the 16 days of activism that looks at and addresses domestic violence and ending violence against women generally. So there's a lot to talk about in the month of November, and we're going to mix that up. But I want to give you the numbers and the texts, all right, so that you can join the conversation. So if you want to call in and be part of what we're talking about today, as always, the numbers are 323-6232, 325-4316, or 325-4259. And we have not forgotten our family islanders. Please call toll free. That means no long distance charges. All right, the number is 242-300-5720. You can stream live and see us and hear us on guardiantalkradio.com. All right, so we're going to have a good show. And if you're watching TV, you're nearby a television, then you can also follow us on Cable Bahamas. It's channel 969. Or if you're on BTC Flow, it's channel 612. And speaking of BTC, listen, the deal you've been waiting for is here. And it's only for 2 days. Now, 1 day is already gone, okay? It was for Thursday, which was yesterday, and it's also for today. This is the final day. BTC is turning up the heat for us, even though we're getting into the fall. So if you sign up for the $64.99 postpaid plan at BTC, at the mall, at Marathon, or the Southwest Plaza, and you can score the all-new iPhone 16, it's 256 gigs, y'all, and it's for $599. So sign up for the $64.99 per month postpaid plan, and you can buy an iPhone 16 for $599. That's a $100 off the regular price, okay? But you have to get there fast. Today's the last day, and the deal is gone after today, okay? So get to the mall, get to Southwest Plaza, and if you feel good, I would like my iPhone in that nickel silver color, all right? Because the one I have, she different, all right? So holla at your girl, call the producer and let him know where I could pick up my phone. I appreciate you. So like I said, I'm sitting in the studio with my sister from another mister, Manita Verens. Manita, how are you?
I am excellent. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Now introduce yourself to our listening audience.
My name is Manita Verens, and I do a lot and I know a lot about a lot. So I'm hoping that helps today's conversation to go smoothly. I am a podcast host of a lovely show called Skip My Scars. It's a new show, so I hope you take a chance to go and listen in. And I'm also an excited member of SeaWorld, so I'm excited to be here to talk about women It's an
right.
amazing conversation we're going to have.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to say a special good afternoon to the Deputy Chair of CWIL, Madam Cherise Cox. She might be listening. Cherise, if you're listening, send me a text, let me know. And all of the members, I also want to say a special hello to our CWIL sisters, because as you know, Caribbean Women in Leadership is a regional organization. Mm-hmm. So we have quite a few of our sisters on the island of Jamaica, in the country of Jamaica, who have been impacted significantly by the passing of Hurricane Melissa. And so our relief efforts are being organized and mobilized so that we can assist them. But I want to say good afternoon to everyone that's listening, particularly my sisters from Caribbean Women in Leadership. This is your opportunity to join the conversation too, to chime in, to call. And, you know, anytime you start to talk about women in leadership, I think it's such a familiar conversation that sometimes the significance of having that conversation and continuing to have that conversation could be lost in a lot of people. So I put some thought in mind. And the thing about it is that the reason why we're talking about it, and we'll continue to talk about it and highlight issues impacting and affecting women and children in this country, is because it's a topic that matters deeply to me. And it's also a topic that is always relevant. It's always now. It's always in the moment. It's in the moment here. It's in the moment around the world. And so when we talk about women in leadership, there's never a time when it's not a good time. So if we look at what's happening in our country, you know, the Bahamas is facing social and economic challenges that demand, not ask, demand inclusive leadership. So women are the majority of our university graduates. Women are the backbone of our communities, yet we are still underrepresented where major decisions are made. Mm-hmm. We simply cannot build the future we want while leaving half of our talent on the sidelines. Yes. And that's what happens when women are refused their rightful place. Regionally, the Caribbean is having the same conversation across CARICOM. Nations are recognizing that resilience, where economic, social, or climate is the topic of conversation, resilient requires diverse voices at the table. And women have proven time and time again that when we lead, communities become stronger, safer, more connected. That is researched, data-driven fact. Globally, the evidence is undeniable. Countries with more women in leadership are more stable, they're more innovative, and they're better equipped to manage crisis. And I don't know if you remember, Manita, those conversations that emanated out of the responses to the COVID-19 pandemic, and how countries that were led by women also led in the most progressive rates of recovery. And that is also fact. And so we're not talking about a gender issue, right? We're talking about growth. We're talking about democracy. We're talking about development. And I think that's what people have to put in context when we talk about women in leadership. We're not talking about women against men. We're not talking about boys against girls. We're not talking about gender at all. We're talking about national growth. We're talking about democracy. We're talking about national development. So today we dive into women's leadership, right? And talk about why it's not only valuable, but essential for our country in this critical moment, in this critical time. Listen, we are 1 week away from a by-election. Yes. Today is the 14th. I think the by-election is going to be in 10 days. A general election in less than 12 months. Mm-hmm. If we make it all the way to September of 2026, when the election must be called. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about women in leadership, this is extremely important in our country.
Now conversation.
So I don't know if you want to chime in. How do you feel about that? Do you feel as though we are embracing the conversation of women in leadership enough?
I think the resistance that usually tends to come in is that when people hear women especially talking about women in leadership, we're advocating for Stepford husbands that must take a back seat and get locked in a closet and maybe whipped and beaten maybe, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, like you spoke to, when we don't make room for this, for qualified women to step into a place of leadership, you are leaving a part of a demographic that is highly important, unrepresented. And the challenge that comes in is when you have men that may not have an appreciation or an understanding sometimes, making leadership or making determinations that affect women, then they would go forward pass legislation, maybe not in the best interest of what a woman in the room would have said, hey, maybe consider another point or another aspect.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge with that is when you are unrepresented, you don't have a seat at the table, minor things in your mind are major things for the other person.
Yeah.
I remember watching a clip online, and this lady, she was in the hospital and she kept hitting her head. And the women are going to know where I'm going with this story. And so she was hitting her head, and then she was being attended to by a white nurse. And that nurse didn't have a frame of reference on why is this woman doing this. And so she was getting ready to have a psych eval done on this lady until a black nurse came on that shift. And then the black nurse observed the woman hitting her head, and she knew right away, okay, the context for this is she has a weave in, it's itching her. This is how she is scratching her head.
Yeah.
But the white nurse didn't have the context for that. And I think the same thing is sometimes true when you don't have equal representation. And I always qualify that by saying qualified representation, because we're in no means advocating for just any woman, just put a woman there.
Right.
Just make space for a woman.
It's not tokenism.
It's
no.
not tokenism.
No,
It's
no.
a qualified woman. And the fact of the matter is, if you look at the graduation rates, the level of education is right now, not that we're wanting it to be that way, but it's trending towards the females. So logically, it's quite questionable when, okay, you have all of these qualified women, higher level education, just moving and shaking in their industries, and
Yeah.
then you can't get a seat at the table. Something's quite wrong with that.
But you said something, and it's interesting because we always say this. We always qualify a woman in a position of leadership, right? And when we qualify her, we speak to her qualifications. But the same is not always true of our male counterparts.
dear.
And the truth of the matter is that women, when it comes to position of leadership, number one, we're less likely to step forward. It takes us a long time to get past all of the things that keep us in subservient roles, right? So when we get past that mentally, it takes a long time. Our male counterparts, they automatically think and feel they're entitled to these positions of leadership. There is no delay with them. When a woman emerges, the level of scrutiny that she experiences is completely different from a male counterpart. So it reminds me a little bit of what Black Americans and Black persons who have experienced oppression, who have experienced segregation, who have experienced racism, etc., when they start to emerge and began to emerge, and even still in 2025, right? Stepping into positions of leadership, the things that they say, you have to be twice as good to get half as much.
Yeah.
You have to show up when nobody else is there. The level of expectation on you is so different. It's the same with women.
Yeah.
So even when we lead, the standard that is applied to us is not universal.
No.
The level of scrutiny that we experience is not universal, right? There's no gender parity when it comes to that, because our male counterpart may show up in a pants and shirt but don't match and some shoes. Listen, if we do that as women, oh my goodness, listen, people go crazy. Oh, you see your hair.
boy.
And you know, there's a level of unfairness when it comes to what we need to do for people to consider us as enough. When we show up in a space saying, here am I want to serve, I'm sufficiently qualified to do so. I mean, everybody starts reading us from head to toe. And I guess we'll delve a little bit more into that. But this conversation we're talking about today, and I hope, listen, pick up the phones and call and chime in and be a part of it, because this is about the necessity. I think we have to move away from this conversation that is suggestive, this conversation that is more or less saying, listen, I think we should. I think this is the way that we ought to be headed as a country. No, we're at necessity. We cannot afford to continue to progress in a way that excludes women from leadership, in a way where we are not being inclusive of women at the leadership table, at leadership spaces. And like I said, we're not talking about tokenism. We're not talking about just saying, hey, you see, we put her there. All right, then, because even when that happens, there's only a certain type of woman that men approve of being in some spaces. And it's not the woman who is strong. It's not the woman who is sufficiently intelligent and articulated and opinionated and qualified to say this is the way it ought to be. It's not her. She's labeled as aggressive. She's labeled as wanting to be a man. She's labeled as, not knowing her place and all of these other things. And so I'm interested in what our callers would have to say when we get to the phone lines. I'm interested in what our listening audience would have to chime in when we get to the text line. But again, I want to pay homage to the women who have led in this country. I want to give a special shout out to them. I'm going to get in trouble if I start calling names because it's been so many. And, sometimes when we think about women in leadership, Manita, we think about women in politics. But listen, leadership is emerging and has emerged and has been transformational in this country from the kitchens.
Yes.
Right? From women who were housewives and mothers who never entered a corporate space or a boardroom, but they raised generations of leaders, and they poured and invested levels of wisdom that we don't even see and hear about anymore. They were leading.
They shaped a generation.
They shaped a generation. They impacted and influenced an entire nation. Women like my grandmother who was reading at a level of a person who was 7 years old and self-taught beyond that point by just reading her Bible. But when it came to advice, when it came to wisdom, when it came to just understanding the world and how it worked, and pushing her children and her grandchildren to do more and be more and seize the day and take opportunity, raising us with a confidence and a fearlessness that the world did not owe us anything, but it certainly had no right to keep us from what we thought was ours, right?
Yes.
Just the power in what they brought to the table. I don't know what was your experience with women in leadership and,
I mean, I've just always had amazing leaders that have just come across my path. But one of the things that really opened my eyes to women in leadership was my Bible. I remember when I first found out and read the story of Deborah, that before anything had really transpired, like we're still in the book of Judges.
Yeah.
This woman was a leader to the extent that the male who was leading the charge of war was like, listen, I'm not going unless you come with me. After she gave them the instruction, after she led them and said, listen, this is what's going to happen and this is how you're going to win.
Absolutely.
And I think if Deborah had come after Jezebel and she had made a proclamation, hey, God is going to give this war to the women, I really believe they would have said, oh, she have a Jezebel spirit.
Wow.
Because I believe there's not an understanding that this thing is of God. Like, God appoints who he appoints. And so if it is a woman, it is a woman. If it's a man, it's a man. But he selects who he gives the spirit of wisdom to and who he ordains to lead. And so that has always shaped me. And so it gave me a sense of belonging to be like, oh, okay, so this isn't contrary to my religious beliefs. This isn't contrary to me feeling actualized in a place of leadership. And so, yeah, I think it's so important, especially in a Christian nation, that we understand every woman that is taking a forefront does not have a Jezebel spirit.
Absolutely.
That is not the reason why she is going. I mean, some of them do. Some of them a little weird. Some of them
we
do.
can talk with them too.
But, yeah.
Because we gotta be
You gotta be fair.
well-rounded in this conversation.
There
But
is a reason why there is a hesitancy sometimes. But my thing is, there is no hesitancy. The amount of wicked male leaders that there have been, there's no hesitancy about whatever spirit on them.
That's it. And anyone who knows anything about the spirit of Jezebel, men can operate from that space as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I just think it's so important to be open-minded. So if you are going to criticize, and honestly, I don't think I mind so much that women are scrutinized at a higher standard, but I believe that what is good for the goose is good for the gander. Scrutinize the male counterparts at that level as well. Let there be a higher level of expectation on leadership so that we don't have anything that buck up goes when it comes to leadership.
Exactly.
Let that be the standard, not just for one side of the spectrum.
Yeah, because the standard of leadership should not be gender biased. The standard of leadership should not even relate to my biology.
Exactly.
It should really relate to whether or not I am sufficiently competent to execute the task, right?
Yes.
And so, like I said, when it comes to leadership, women have been doing it. And I am so proud to say, listen, when it comes to education, when it comes to activism, when it comes to politics, when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to community building, when it comes to family, when it comes to progress, women have always shown up, and we've shown up in a way that brings value.
Yes.
We don't just show up and we're just there as numbers. We bring value. We bring our
Yes.
intelligence. We bring our sensitivity to the needs of family and community to our decision-making spaces. We're going to continue to delve into this topic of women in leadership. This is the month of November. You know, we talk about a lot of things, women, and this show really it has a kind of a focus on women and children as we continue to move throughout these Fridays. We're going to take a quick break, and when I get back, Manita and I are going to continue with the conversation, and then we're going to rope in some of our callers. This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Robin Lines with you on a Friday. We'll be right back.
You try to rest, roll with the best. For all your printing needs, there ain't no one better, no. For posters and banners, magazines and flyers. For window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it, just give us a call. Let Print Masters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
This time around, this time around, this time around, we girl with Brian Brown. This time around, this time around, this time around, we girl with Brian Brown. This way he live, he got so much to give. Educational program, young people and the kids. You ain't gotta be no whiz. Brian handling business, all kind of things in these senior citizens. Hey!
Paid for by the Free National Movement.
Girl, Junior just showed me Bella Boy in his phone.
What you mean? He take picture of that good-for-nothing boy?
Shh, you don't want Bella here. You say that. You know she always say that's my good child.
So what he doing in Junior phone?
Oh, he there because the police looking for him. He on their wanted list.
Wanted persons in your phone now?
Yes, child. And when police want to find anybody quick, after something happen, they can send picture direct to your phone. Go to Google Play or App Store and search for Crack Crime Bahamas. Then pick install and it will go straight to your phone.
There is also a section on missing persons?
Yes, girl. Everybody needs to get this app so police can tell us right away when these people go missing. Just like an alert system.
Yes, it has numbers for Crime Stoppers Bahamas, so you can call and nobody knows it's you. Call directly to Miami and give the information without giving your name or anything about you. I tried it the other day, and when I hear Junior and his boys talking about where they hide those guns, I walk quick round the corner and call that number.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we are back. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with me on every side of the break. This is Robin Lines. You're tuned into Guardian Radio today, and I'm joined by my sister and friend, Caribbean Women in Leadership is in the house, Manita Verens, and we are talking about women in leadership, the significance, the importance, and this kind of necessity in our country, no matter what time it is, hey? No matter what time it is. And we were just talking a little bit about women in leadership, a little bit from a historical context, examining the fact that leadership is not politics. That's not all it is. But women have been leading in so many different spaces, and we are emerging in stronger ways, and it is inuring to the benefit of our national development. You know, the truth of the matter is representation from women in business, in the corporate spaces, in law, civil society, governance, you see it. You see it happening. But we are still falling short.
Yes.
There's not gender parity. There's not gender equity. And when we look at the gaps, these are the areas we can see them in political seats, When you look at politics, when you look at the I don't want to say gender, but I mean we could do that. When we look at the male to female ratio in our House of Assembly, in both the lower and upper chamber, we can see we're not there yet politically. Corporate boards and senior government roles.
Yes.
Right? Those are some real gaps that we could see. That there is no secret there.
Yes.
But when it comes to politics, that is a creature in and of itself, because the culture of politics in our country and how we look at representation, right, and what we do in election cycles and how we communicate, and the influence of social media and the use of social media as a campaign tool and all of these other things, the way that space has become so muddy, so insulting, so degenerative. A lot of women who, and I always say this, a lot of women who are qualified to lead in that space are uninterested.
Yes.
And a lot of women who are interested really aren't qualified. They shouldn't be there.
No.
So that's an issue that we have. But when we look at those gaps, what are you thinking when you think about politics, corporate boards, leading government roles? Do you agree? Do you see enough women occupying from those spaces?
I would compare it to an observation that I guess I've been toying over in my mind. In the U.S., where they talk about affirmative action, there's been a lot of pushback recently about that because they say it's racism against white people. Essentially, though, if you really think back to when there was a point when Jonquisha could not get a job because they've already filtered her out, that's okay, that's a black name, that's a ghetto name, she can't get in. When you go back to those spaces where a person who may have been qualified, it wasn't Jonquisha, it was Becky. She was a black girl, she was qualified, but she would not be allowed in the room because of her color. If you didn't have those quotas, a lot of those initial opportunities for people to actually get in and demonstrate, like, listen, my skin color is just a skin color.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with my level of competency. If those initial quotas were not made, we would not have the wide acceptance that we do now. Now, maybe there is an argument to be made that, okay, now they're just filling up seats for filling up seats' sake. These are just token seats now. Maybe that time has passed. But the fact that it existed was because there was a need. And so if you take that model now and you look now to say, okay, we don't just want to do quotas for doing quotas' sake. I mean, but let's look at it. It's not happening organically. And it's not, again, we talk about competency. It's not a lack of competence. There are people that would offer themselves and that were turned away because they weren't maybe a part of the clique. They weren't able to get in with the crew. And so they just weren't given an opportunity.
Yeah.
But maybe if that quota system was there, qualified people who otherwise would be looked away, they would have had that opportunity. Because I think we forget that as humans, as much as we may have policies and procedures and we say, okay, we're following this particular thing, the fact is we're humans, we have our biases.
Yeah, we do.
We have a preference for sameness and we dispel otherness. And so right now, female leaders in the political sector, in boardrooms, that's an otherness. That is almost an infiltration on what could be considered a boys' club. And so without a quota, maybe they will not open those doors to say, okay, yeah, here's your chair, pull up a seat. And now women have come to the point that, hey, okay, forget y'all, I can just build my own table and bring my own chair. But should we have to?
But I mean, what I want people to recognize, though, from a quota system or any kind of influence of an affirmative action, it is not a doing away with a qualification. Exactly. It's not a doing away with criteria. It doesn't say we open the door for any and every one. What it says is that we make it mandatory that this particular vulnerable group, this marginalized group, this underrepresented group, it is mandatory that a space is prepared so that a qualified individual from that underrepresented group is brought to the forefront, because we realize and recognize that their inclusion is significant. Yeah. Their inclusion inures to the benefit of our overall development and progress. That's the conversation. We're not, and again, so when we talk about these things, if we don't understand it, if we don't, give it the appreciation and understanding the conversation deserves, we miss it. Now, we're talking about the importance and the significance of women in leadership in this country. I want to read a text message because this texter sent a message under the headline misogyny. And it's not really about women in leadership. It's more of a critique of women and how women present. And it's interesting because we're talking about one thing and this is about something else. And not to derail the conversation, but to put it in context because this is something too that a lot of people think about and talk about. And the texter says, let's talk about dress code, mislines, and gender. Many women have showed up to work in the shortest and tightest clothing, something males can't get away with, and still expect people to ignore how she's dressed. A man can't enter a boardroom with their chest and thighs hanging out and still expect to be treated respectfully. I advise you to tell your female counterparts to avoid entering corporate spaces with their fronts on display. That was heavy. And I do not disagree. With the texter. This is not about dress code and the appropriateness of one's attire when you enter into a particular space. There's no argument there. I think there's a time and place for whatever it is that we wear. You don't go to, or you shouldn't. It used to be when you say you don't go to church in your jogging suit or your pajamas and your slippers, but we've moved so much away from the landmark. I'm not even sure if I can say that. But there's time and place and dress code. And I mean, for everything, you used to be able to go into a store and say, take me to the work section, take me to the beach section, take me to the casual section. And because, that's a given. And so, I appreciate the texter for chiming into that. But I want to throw out a question out there. And I want to ask our listening audience to call in, to text in, to respond to this. I'm going to give you a chance to respond to it as well, Manita. But in this country, we've never had a shortage of powerful women. And we'll talk a little bit about those powerful women and their historic journey and contribution to this country when we talk a little bit about women's suffrage and the observance of that on another show. But the truth of the matter is, whilst we've always had those powerful women, we haven't always had a system that is designed to elevate them to positions of authority and leadership. They've been worthy, but the system has excluded them.
Yes.
Right? So then that means that we, in many respects, lost the benefit of what the influence could have done and how it could have shaped and reshaped who we are as a people, who we are as a society, how we think as a civilization. We can't continue to miss those opportunities. I want to hear what you think about that, but I want to go to the call line first because we had a caller on hold for too long. Caller, are you there as we get into this conversation?
I am.
Hi, how are you?
Godly day, of course, you and your guest.
Thank you.
And, of course, the universe. One question I had, right? Earlier, one of you spake of the lady was bucking her head towards the wall or something of that sort.
Right.
What was wrong with her?
No, nothing was wrong with her. I think Ms. Verens had answered it. She said that they thought something was wrong with her, but some of us women, we like to put a weave or extension in our hair. And because we do that, sometimes at the point where the weave or extension is, it can itch. And so sometimes you may tap your head. I don't know. She was a little extra and hitting her head to a wall, but
she didn't hit her head to the wall though. She was hitting her head with her hand.
Oh, hitting her head with her hand.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But that was just to demonstrate the context of representation. Someone that was like her understood what was happening because the other person was getting ready to put her in the psych ward.
Stop the itch, in other words.
I think so.
Yes.
I hope so.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Well. That's all. It had me wondering,
I got you.
I'm sorry for the confusion.
No problem.
Well, we appreciate you calling. Thank you so very much. Thank you. See, now, Manita, you got to qualify these things now. All right?
Yes.
Because you had a concerned caller, and we appreciate his sensitivity to that.
Yes.
But tell me about that. What do you think? We've had powerful women. We have not always had a system designed to include those powerful women. Do we have that system now, though?
I don't think so, because I think there's still a level of concern because it's, okay, well, these women have to go on maternity leave potentially. They have these other challenges. They have cycles. They have all these things. And so I think there's still limiting belief as it relates to a woman's capacity. As much as there's been a demonstration that if anything, that drives us even more, because we've birthed these humans. A lot of times we go harder. Like, while I am not a proponent there, just get it, you don't need a man, yada yada. I'm very married and I love my husband. The fact of the matter is, a woman's drive is something special, and I think that it's underestimated, because I guess maybe too, they may be looking at it from their frame of reference. Well, if I had these children, and maybe if I had this cycle, and if I had these problems, I wouldn't have been pushing, because they don't have that frame of reference. And again, that is why it's so important to have women in the room, because someone that is like you tends to empathize and understand your point of view. And that is why we need men in the room, because of course now we can't think like them.
Right.
And so there is never a conversation where female leadership means the exclusion of men. And I think it's always important to rope that into the narrative, because sometimes people hear this. And because there has been, I think, a hijacking maybe of the concept of feminism, that like you have some weird people advocating on some wild points, that it seems as though what you're advocating for is throw away all the men, push them off of a cliff, women rule, like
absolutely.
Planet of the Apes kind of scene.
And also what has been hinged to the woman's agenda.
Yes.
Persons with other agendas, right? Certain special interests with their own persuasive ideals and what they want have kind of hinged onto what we talk about when we talk about advocacy on behalf of women and women in leadership and children, etc., etc. It's what has been hinged onto that conversation and almost presented as if it's part and parcel of. And we saw the danger of that in the referendums that we had in this country. We were dealing with issues affecting women. We were dealing with issues affecting Bahamian children born to a married woman outside of the country and her not being able to pass on her citizenship in wedlock. And listen, the entire conversation was hijacked, right? And, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But that is what happens when there is not a full understanding of an explanation. And a lot of women would say, why are we still talking about women in leadership? Y'all don't think we have enough? Y'all don't think we've done enough? Y'all don't think we've gone far enough? Y'all don't think that they've welcomed us enough? Sometimes women are offended by this advocacy and this cry for the not for women to be pushed forward, but just for the removal of barriers, because women are already forward moving. Just remove the hindrances from us coming to our rightful place. Listen, we're talking women in leadership. I know we have a caller on the line, but we have to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to go straight to the call as we get into why we need more women leaders to emerge in our country, why this is so important in this moment. We'll be right back after this break.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
Don't wait for a storm to arrive. Stock up on hurricane supplies, make home repairs, purchase a generator, and more this hurricane season with a Fidelity personal loan. Make that move today. Call 356-7764.
Fidelity, we're good for you.
Janae's Chesapeake Road Christmas Wonderland is open. Get up to 40%, yes, 40% off decorations this season. Christmas trees in a variety of sizes and colors, and decorated by choosing from the largest variety of Christmas decorations in town. Musical LEDs and laser lights, ornaments, lighted angels and Santas, garlands, wreaths, tree skirts, stockings, and lots more. Oh, the array of flowers and fixed choices. And don't forget the toys, they're 40% off. Up to 40% off things Christmas at Janae's. Restrictions apply. Check out some selections online at www.janays.com. This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we're back. Thank you, everyone. You're tuned in, as I say, to Guardian Radio today with me, your host, this and every Friday, God Spares Life. So I want you to lock that into your calendars. If it's a Friday, if it's 2 to 4 p.m., then you're going to be locked in with me, Robin Lyons, on Guardian Radio today. And we'll get into some interesting topics like the one we're talking about now. Women in leadership in the Bahamas. I want to go to the call, Manita. I want to go straight to the call lines so that we can hear from our caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Ms. Lyons. Good afternoon to your guest.
Good afternoon to you. How are you?
Good afternoon.
I'm pretty good and great show.
Thank
Ms. Lyons, I was listening, but then I think your guest kind of summed it up for me a bit because I was trying to get an understanding on exactly what else do you women want. I mean, are you advocating for women, your counterparts in other jurisdictions, who are being used as what they call cattle or whatever the terminology that they use? What is it? You know, I had the opportunity one time. My daughter was at school at Albury Hill. Every member of the staff were female, including the PE teacher, the security guard. Not one male was present. So professionally, you have to put it in the context, in a proper context, because professionally, women are dominating the workforce. In all capacity, we have our first female commissioner of police. The governor general is a woman. The postmaster general is a female who should replace the first one ever. This one should replace the first one ever. I mean, all the permanent secretaries, most of them are women. Professionally, you're doing a great job. So is it the passing on citizenship or this marital rape thing that you're advocating for exactly? Well, help me out to understand. Who knows? Maybe some men may be able to support you, because right now, for males, men, we feel as if that we are being marginalized. Especially, you wouldn't want to father a child out of wedlock. We have to get permission in 2025 to get a passport. The woman has to give you a letter. You can't just go there and apply for a passport. So this thing isn't just the scale just leaning over on one side. We all are being marginalized in some given area, but professionally, women are dominating the field. What's the yours?
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate your call. And I think we mentioned that already, because and that's exactly what I said. That's how some people feel, but that's not true. We're not dominating the field in everything like you think. And like I said, when it comes to political seats, when it comes to corporate boards, when it comes to senior government roles, women are not leading. And we are not trying to lead in those spaces. We're not trying to be the primary number of person. What we are saying is, let us try our best to create a kind of system where we look at gender parity. So this is not women saying, listen, put the men to the back and put us to the front. So don't misconstrue the ideals of the conversation, because what we are talking about is what research has found, is what has been the experience of countries, of corporations, of societies, that listen, if you allow women and men to lead, if you allow this kind of influence of both, you're going to see progress. You're going to see better results. That's just the truth. And I want to get into that too, and talk about what happens when women join men at the seat of leadership, not when women replace them.
Yes.
So what you're talking about is a replacement. That has never been the advocacy of any women's organization that I've ever been in. It's certainly not the advocacy of Caribbean women in leadership. We're not trying to replace men. We're trying to join them. I want to take one more call, Manita, before we get to a little bit more about what the caller talked about. Why is this discussion still important? Why are we still talking about this? A caller, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Langs. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. listen to me, Miss Lang. You can be one of the most experienced people to talk about women in leadership. Women is women's biggest enemy in leadership. If the women support the women would be in everything in the Bahamas. Because even right down to elections, if you have 20 people go out to vote in an election, 7 of them is women. But the women don't support the women. You had an experience with that before. We're not going to get into that on that. But if the women had support you,
well, the women did, but I understand your point. Not all of the women, but we can get to that in another time.
What I'm saying, in any event you're doing, you can count the things on one hand when men participate more than women. Women just like to compete, but the women don't. Some women are afraid to be led by other women. I don't know why. You know, there's a song out where they say, if the woman was the prime minister, would this thing and that thing, would she be cooking, would they be talking about and thing. But
what? I never hear that song.
Yeah, man, there's one where they say they can't even raise the woman and we talking all kind of thing, and the man is scared the work done. Something to that effect.
Okay.
But what I want to say, Miss Lang, a person like you, and I know people, I can get with 3 calls as soon as I hang up. Why always bigging you up and praising you?
Why you? Oh,
I
Lord.
see leadership in you.
Well, I appreciate you.
I wouldn't want to say I know you personally, but I know you good enough to see leadership in you. And being a leader, first you have to be honest. Not honest first. First you got to be true to yourself. Then be honest. And I think you're true to yourself, and I think you're an honest person.
Well, I appreciate you.
You know, and that is the type of leaders we need. Whether it be man or woman, but we're talking about woman leadership now. And I think there's still a place for you. You know where. We ain't get it. You know where.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for the call. And thank you for chiming in. No, there's definitely a lot more work to be done when it comes to the mindset of women, when it comes to women in leadership, and the mindset of all of us about how right, how correct it is for women to lead. And the texter is interesting because there's a texter that says, you say that research says that women can lead. But what about what the Bible says about women leadership? That's a whole show all by itself. But I would like to just make this one statement of the origins of humanity as I believe it to be. What the Bible says. When God created Adam and Eve, the Bible says he gave them dominion. He didn't give him. He didn't give her. He gave them. A lot of things happened after that, but the origin of his plan and his ideal for humanity was this joint dominion. And that is why he said it's not good for Adam to be alone. Let me send him help. Yes. And that's what help is. Help joins you in your journey. God is not opposed to women in leadership, and any kind of notion that he is erroneous. And we can't get too deep into that because that's a different conversation altogether, but that is my opinion. I do not believe that God is opposed to women in leadership. He has placed women in leadership, and he continues to use women in every space and sphere. What we're talking about, though, is why women's leadership is significant, why it's important to have this conversation, right? And the first thing I always think about is the level of diversity.
Yes.
The level of diversity in thought, the level of diversity in character. Women and men are not alike. Nope. Women and men are not the same. And so when you have one to the absence of the other, to the exclusion of the other, then you're not even moving by divine design, because God knew, listen, I need Adam and I need Eve. If this is going to work, I need both of them coming to the table, bringing their expertise, bringing the natural characteristics that they have just as a result of gender and biology. We'll talk about why women's leadership is significant and why we're having this discussion. I'm excited to hear what Moneta thinks about that. And thank you so much for those of you who have called in so far and those of you who texted, because you are very much part of this conversation and your thoughts and your opinions are so significant to me, because it really helps me to think about things in ways that maybe I have not thought of before. I know we got to take a break as news is at the top of the hour. It's 3:00. But I want you to stay right where you are, locked into Guardian Radio 96.9 on this Friday afternoon with me, Robin Lyons, and my special guest, Moneta Verens. We'll be right back after this break.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM.
Thank you so much. We're back from the break. Moneta had me cracking up in the studio talking about her husband. These women, I tell you. But we've been having such an interesting conversation about women in leadership. And we're delving into that part where we talk about why women in leadership, why this conversation is still significant. And one of the callers raised a point that we had raised before, and it's a point that we sometimes always have to address. What more y'all women want? You understand? Like, what more y'all want? Goodness gracious me, y'all ain't got everything except the kitchen sink. That's what people feel. That's what they think. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's so important just to, again, and I appreciate it, because sometimes if you don't have a frame of reference or a frame of context for a matter, like it evades you. I remember being at a Seawell event and a discussion was had about the origins of maternity leave as we know it to be now. And I was aghast to find out that before that, either there was no maternity leave or it was like just a few weeks, maybe like less than a month. And that a woman at the table, a female leader, had to advocate and push forward an amendment to ensure that this 3 months that women enjoy now, it didn't always exist. It's our normal now. It's heinous to think that someone would try to take it away now, but it was not normal then. And so I think that the whole conversation or the thought of women in leadership, what else do you want? It's because it's abnormal. Right now, the normal is males just run the show for everything. Qualified females, that's a smart woman, that's a good woman. And you would hear people commending women that strive. But then when that same woman looks for a seat at a decision-making table that matters, it's like, hold on now, you want too much.
Yeah.
And so
you've gone too far.
You've gone too far.
Is that though this level of idea that permission needed? Mm-hmm. Permission needed, like, how dare you decide? And I've experienced this in my own leadership walk with not needing the validation, approval, consent, or co-signature of any of my male counterparts, but just feeling like I am worthy enough, intelligent enough, articulate enough, qualified enough to occupy this seat. I know you're sitting in it. I don't think you're doing a good job. This seat, I think I can do a better job, and let those whom we serve make the decision, right? But people get offended by that. They think it's an audacity.
Yes.
I think it's a necessity.
Yes. And then when the whole conversation of what else do you want, I think it comes from a frame of reference of, well, my wife have to submit to me. But I remember when I was in the armed forces, like I had to always contextualize, listen, I submit to my husband.
Exactly, but we ain't in our house.
We ain't in our house. I submit to my husband. You are not my husband. On this job, I submit to the rank and file. There is an order.
Yes.
So just because you are a male does not make you my superior.
Moneta, sometimes I forget you used to be a gun-toting police,
Listen to me.
Goodness
People
me.
didn't believe me when I was there.
I tell you that. I tell you that. No, it's true. It's absolutely true what you're saying, and it is something that I think we have to constantly express, constantly talk about. And I pray for the day when we move beyond this point.
Yeah.
When this is no longer a conversation, it's been normalized to the degree where we recognize what we do in our own life. Because I don't know anyone in 2025 who is sending their son to school and leaving their daughter at home.
Exactly.
You educate them equally. I don't know anyone who is saying, well, as my daughter can only go this far in her education or only go this far in her professional pursuits, but my son, the sky's the limit. No, I don't know a father who would say that his daughter is inadequate and insufficient, not one who loves her. So even when we talk about leadership, I want people to recognize that we're not just talking about it as if it's afar off from you. The women in your life are leaders as well.
Yes.
And so when we have this conversation, think about how far you think they could go and how much you think they should do. I want to say hello. I have to say hello to my cousin in Grand Bahama, Brenny. She's like my sister. I love her dearly. And I'm saying this because she asked me to. Not about the love, but definitely about the hi. I had to say hi to her. But listen, it's mind-boggling that we're going to have to continue to have this conversation because we're still not there yet.
Yeah.
And one of the callers talk about women being our worst enemy in some respects. And unfortunately, that can sometimes be true. It's not a general statement that I would apply in every situation, but certainly it has happened sufficiently for us to see it as problematic. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you've ever been a part of a space where there have been a lot of women there, a lot of women occupying the seats of authority. And a lot of people feel as though that can become a toxic environment. I don't believe that it is regularly toxic, and I don't believe it would be toxic because it's women. I think toxicity is a character trait, not a gender one. If you are a toxic person, you're toxic.
Exactly.
If you are someone who is easily intimidated and fearful of someone who comes with gravitas and who comes with competence, that they somehow make you feel insignificant or inadequate, then this is a manifestation of your own internal insecurities. This don't have nothing to do with the fact that I was a woman.
Exactly.
A man would make you feel the same way.
Exactly.
So I just want us to stop, just creating these gender conversations when these are really character conversations.
Exactly.
If you're dishonest, whether you're a man or a woman. If you are incompetent, you're incompetent, whether you're a man or a woman. Whatever you are, it's a manifestation of character. It's a manifestation of issues of the heart. You know what I mean? And so I would prefer for us to talk about it in that context, because I have been on the other side of what someone would consider to be very insecure men, extremely insecure, who have done all they could to try to marginalize and stifle and stop me. Equally so, I've been on the other side of women with the same type of character. I don't say he's like that because he's a man. She's like that because she's a woman. They are like that because they are character flawed. And real leaders are ones who recognize that the strength of my leadership is the fact that someone who is equally or even stronger than I am wants to submit to my leadership, actually wants to follow me, actually feels as though I have something that I can impart. Why wouldn't I want to embrace, elevate, and see them do well?
Yes.
Why? I don't know why we don't feel that way as women. And tell me something, culturally, why do you think women are still fighting this idea of women in leadership?
I think sometimes it may be our fault because we don't push enough the narrative of the women that support women. I would say it's been 2-1 visibly. Now, I know I like I said, they're equal opportunity offenders. I've had haters, male and female, and I think maybe because I'm a little more forceful sometimes in my conversation, the haters decide not to confront me with it. But nevertheless, there are so many women. For every hater that I was aware of, I've had 2 to 3 women that have helped push me along my journey. I have had women that have supported me. I have had women that open doors for me to say, oh, okay, come inside this room, come inside this space, do this thing with me. And I think maybe it's because that we may have allowed that narrative to go forward to say, hey, all these women, they carry, these women are this and these women are that. But there are so many, like, think about your mothers, your aunts, like the people, again, back to your family, the amazing people that are in your network, that are there, that have supported you and made sure that you've gotten to the level that you are. Some of those people are terrible, but then other ones are amazing. And I think that we like to push this narrative of these women, when they get together, they tear you down, they do this and do that, because maybe we have allowed that narrative to spew and we haven't pushed enough the fact that there are women that support, women that have lifted, and women that have opened doors for the other women to walk through.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I have someone who's calling, though, Manita, from a cell phone, and I don't want their minutes to run out. And they may be the person to get me this iPhone 16. Caller, are you there?
Oh, wow.
Is it you? Are you my...
Yeah. It's been 6 minutes I've been on the phone.
Oh, my God. I'm so sorry.
On you guys just for a minute or two.
How are you?
Yes, I'm fine, and I hope you guys are fine,
yes,
too.
Sir. Yes.
First and foremost, as a disclaimer, I'd like to let you know the most powerful person in my life is a lady. First and foremost. Mm-hmm. So whatever I say is bigger than greed.
Oh, Lord. Are you gone? Are you there? Oh, Lord, look like he only had 7 minutes and 6 was on hold. He called on the break. I don't want to keep another caller waiting. Caller, are you there?
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Rachel?
Good. You wanted to chime into the conversation?
Yeah, we live?
We are live. We are.
Okay, good afternoon to everyone who's listening. I like how the host put it, insecure. I think she was talking about one particular set of males. But I think it's sad, and we do have insecure males and females. I must say that. I think it's sad when us men can't see the worth in a smart woman, an intelligent female. It doesn't matter if they're different gender, whatsoever, if they ain't the same gender, if they ain't male. We have smart people, and I think we need to give them a chance. I wasn't going to call this show no more, no.
No?
But when you touch this, it reminds me of Miss Lyons' situations.
Well, this is Miss Lyons you talking to. How are you?
Oh, yeah, talking to you.
This is Miss Lyons live and direct with you.
Yeah,
How are you?
It reminds me of your situation when I'll call them. No, but my question today is that what do you say to the intelligent lady like a Miss Lyons, or let's talk generally, not Miss Lyons, how we was talking earlier about an intelligent woman. When you have intelligent other ladies telling the intelligent lady who thinks she could do the job just as good or better, go sit down. You young or whatsoever. I know they say women could be their biggest enemies, right? But I want you to touch it a little bit, if it's possible, if you don't mind. And this thing with the International Olympics Association and people, they do a ruling where men will no longer play in women's sports. And I know you're not talking about that, but we're talking about intelligent people and stuff that I consider you all intelligent. I just wanted to know if your view is that you think that I should come in a ring with another woman, or a male should come in a ring with a woman and box up and beat her to pieces, and that's okay. We should have an open mind to something like that. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, caller. We're gonna get to you. That's some interesting commentary. I want to take another caller. Caller, you there on the line?
Yes. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you, Miss Lyons. And what's the name of your guest host?
This is Manita Varens.
Oh, good afternoon, Mrs. Varens.
Good afternoon. I'm well, thank you.
Okay. I have some concerns and some thoughts on this particular topic. There can be a lot of conflating that takes place with this issue, similarly to what you all sought to clear up earlier in the conversation, the difference with women or organizations such as Sewell supporting the idea of parity, right, versus others who may conflate and confuse the conversation by suggesting that women are seeking to take over I think a lot of emotions go into that part of the conversation. But a little bit of that, in my view, is occurring in the conversation as well. The reason why I'm saying that is this. I'm one who I believe that once you possess the ability, the competence, the experience, the know-how, more important than anything, including sitting in a classroom for 8 hours and getting an education, is the know-how. Mm-hmm. Because you have a lot of educated fools out there. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of incompetent educated fools out there. You have a lot of people who talk about education, but they don't know how to execute or translate the classroom into reality, right? And so the know-how, I think, is the key. And along that line, I believe that as it relates to democracy or politics, that's a system that doesn't take into consideration parity at the level that civil will consider, right? People have a right to choose whoever they choose.
Absolutely.
Whether they see that person as competent or whether that person in actuality is incompetent or never had anything that they've proven themselves successful in doing, right? But I believe that the problem really comes down to processes, right? I believe that is where the sticking points truly are, because in a competition, of course, everyone will seek to take full advantage of whatever they have available to them to get to their point, their end point, right? But I believe, similarly to your process, Ms. Lines, when you attempted to
no, but I won't make this about me now, but I get your point.
You would have mentioned it, which is why I'm mentioning it also. Similarly to your process, I believe that, or similarly to your challenge, I believe that process could be the elephant in the room that makes it difficult or makes it unfair for an individual, whether they're male or female, in challenging. Because as you would know, Ms. Lines, males also experience similar experiences.
Yes.
When they're seeking to challenge for top positions in the political sphere. So I believe it's processes that comes down to the problem and the guardians who have that responsibility to safeguard and protect and ensure those processes are executed
in a democratic manner. Yes, I agree with you. Thank you. Thank you so much, caller. I want to take another caller who's been on hold. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, good evening. How y'all doing? Afternoon. How y'all doing?
We're doing good. How are you?
Yeah, so what is your topic today?
Well, our topic is the significance of women in leadership. You wanted to add something to that conversation?
Well, earlier I heard you were talking about when God created Adam, and that prompted me to say something.
Well, someone had messaged and made the point as to whether or not women in leadership or women occupying spaces of leadership is biblical. We couldn't delve too much into that, but we kind of just touched it very, very briefly. You had a point that you wanted to make real quick?
Well, what I want to say is from an intelligent or an intelligent standpoint, you get women that are as intelligent, in some cases more intelligent than others than some men are. That's a given. When you're talking about leadership, if you're talking about leadership across the board, the Bible would be against leadership across the board. And I heard you said, God created Adam and he created Eve and he told them to have dominion. Initially, I know that was true. And if you believe it's still true, then I would say to you, go read Genesis 3, verses 16, and I think just a little bit under, after the fall and after the judgment was placed on Eve. And if you read that and you come back and say there's no difference, then I know you're off the track with that.
In your opinion?
Huh?
In your opinion?
No, not my opinion. I don't have an opinion.
But it's a matter of interpretation and opinion based on what you say. Because if we talk about the redemptive work of Christ, that's a completely different conversation. But I know that we don't have the time to delve into a biblical debate. But I appreciate, in all fairness, your commentary. I wish we could, but we can't delve into a full-on biblical debate, but it's interesting, isn't it? It's really interesting. Mr. Producer, do we have another call on the line? I want to make sure no one is on hold too long. Caller, are you there? Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Yes, ma'am. I just had to go and buy more minutes.
Oh, goodness me.
Wow.
Listen.
Okay? And then, therefore, like I left off, we
Yes,
could
sir.
agree to disagree. We could iron this out, right?
Yes.
But for one, women are supposed to listen more than they talk. Why I say that is, for the reason be it, that when a woman talks, it's powerful, right? You know, in the Bible, when they carried Jesus to one king to be crucified, he ran upstairs to his wife or the queen, and she told him straight and plain, if they want to crucify him, they could do that, but they ain't gonna do it on this land. So the significance of a woman, I think y'all don't even really understand, because being a man is a whole different type of responsibility, and being a woman is a very important position to play in this world. And right now, if you were to ask my opinion, I would say the biggest job a woman has right now in society, they are failing, and it's the family. That's why we have so much young kids, and we have too much career women wanting positions of men. See, men are not made to talk. Men are made to do. Made to lead.
So tell me
Women
something
in a
that
discreet manner.
so that most important job of where women are falling down in the family, even though women are leading the majority of households and being present in family, what about the absent men?
No, what about the absent man? The Bible says, and I even ain't a Bible type person, but the Bible says, in a house with a miserable woman, a man will sleep on the top of a roof. So as modern days, you don't necessarily go on the roof anymore.
Listen, I listen.
We move away and move out.
Listen, even as a woman, if you have a miserable sister or mommy, you won't be on top of the roof. So I get it, but I don't know if I agree with you as to the placement of the burden of the family to lay at the feet of women. I think it's at the feet of men and women. It's at the feet of parents. It's at the feet of the household.
Okay.
But listen, I got some other callers on the line, and we only have until 4 o'clock. So what you say now?
Okay, yeah, you said God needed man and woman. That's why He created Adam and Eve. But in actuality, because blasphemy is a sin that cannot be forgiven, God made Adam because He needed a caretaker for the world. And He saw that man was lonely and needed a partner. And He made Eve. God didn't need woman. He saw that man needed woman. You agree with me?
That's an interesting concept. That's a very interesting concept. But remember what God's mandate was to man and women. What His mandate was to man and women. Even biblically, what did He tell them to do? So we're gonna take another call. No, that's not all He told them. But listen, I love conversing with you. Thank you. I appreciate you calling and taking the time to call. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, ma'am. Good evening to you, ladies.
Good evening to you. Good afternoon. Hi.
Yes, there's a saying that some are born great, some achieve greatness, and others have greatness thrust upon them.
Yes.
In the diaspora, it is important for us to look and to see of some of the hurt that women have gone through, especially, well, speaking basically of the black woman. And somehow her self-esteem, she doesn't have that much confidence as she should. And it is one of the things I think we need to work on, other women who are stronger than some, to help them to come up a little higher in every aspect of their life. The time to do better is always And so anytime we have in our presence someone who is not behaving or acting the way they ought to, acting out of character, it is a good time for us to educate and to help in that regard so that we begin to build up women, especially because what I'm seeing now, basically, you have men who are coming out of single home where they're brought up, trained by women, and for some reason, most of the traits that I see in the woman is constantly being measured out in his behavior. For instance, we were, as a man, I was taught, brother, listen here, if Tommy, your brother, mash your hand, you don't hold that grudge against him for 9-10 years and then try to some way to enact some kind of revenge on him.
Yeah. Well, we don't have too much time left, so I appreciate your call, but any wrap-up comments? Take another 20 seconds.
Okay, thank you, man.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you for all of you that have called and texted and been part of the conversation. Stick and stay. Listen, I want to remind you, because this is the last day. It's Friday, the 14th of November. And so that means then that you only have today to sign up for the $64.99 postpaid plan at BTC. So you got to go to the mall or you have to go to Southwest Plaza. If you sign up for that at $64.99 for the monthly postpaid plan, you could get me and you. I don't know if you could get two-way producer, but if you get one, I would like to see if you would seed that into my life. iPhone 16, 256 gigs for just $5.99. You save $100 automatically. And when today is gone, so is the deal, all right? So stay on the line with me, tuned into Guardian Radio 96.9 as you make your way to BTC at the mall or Southwest Plaza. We're going to take a quick break. I think this may be our final break. And then we're going to come back. Well, we come back after this break for more talk, all right? This is Guardian Radio with Robin Lyons.
Step inside the John Baptiste Jazz Club at Bahamar, where the rhythm of the islands of the Bahamas meets the soul of New Orleans. Every night, the lights dim, the music swells, and the air fills with that unmistakable energy, the kind that makes you close your eyes and just feel. Savor signature cocktails, curated small plates, and live performances from world-class musicians, all in an intimate, artfully designed space where every seat has a story. Whether it's a romantic night out or a spontaneous evening with friends, this is where you want to be. The John Baptiste Jazz Club, only at Bahamar. Reserve your table now at bahamar.com/jazz club or through the Bahamar app, because every evening plays its own tune.
Girl, Junior just showed me Bella Boy in his phone.
What you mean? He take picture of that good for nothing boy?
Shh, you don't want Bella here. You say that. You know she always say that's my good child.
So what he doing in Junior phone?
Oh, he there because the police looking for him. He on their wanted list.
Wanted persons in your phone now?
Yes, child. And when police want to find anybody quick, after something happen, they can send picture direct to your phone. Go to Google Play or App Store and search for Crack Crime Bahamas, then pick install and it will go straight to your phone.
There is also a section on missing persons?
Yes, girl. Everybody needs to get this app so police can tell us right away when these people go missing. Just like an alert system.
Yes, it has numbers for Crime Stoppers Bahamas, so you can call and nobody knows it's you. Call directly to Miami and give the information without giving your name or anything about you. I tried it the other day, and when I hear Junior and his boys talking about where they hide those guns, I walk quick round the corner and call that number.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we're back. Thank you so much. Listen, the listening audience at Guardian Radio, particularly you all that listen on Fridays with me, I love you so much. You're candid, you're honest, you're rambunctious. And no matter what you say, as long as we're being respectful, let's have some candid conversation. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate Moneta Verance being here with me. Such a knowledgeable and powerful young woman, a leader in her own right in the spaces she occupies. And so it's been a great conversation so far. You could believe we almost at the end of the show. I don't know how the 2 hours go so fast. But I want to get a little bit into the significance of women in leadership and why in this country. See, because we home, right? We got to take care of home first. And believe it or not, this conversation has local, regional, and global context. That's the truth. But I want to focus in these last few minutes on home. What do you think, in your opinion, one point is the significance of a woman in leadership?
I believe, and it may be considered a cliche at this point, that representation matters.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in high school, I think I was maybe in the Zona Club or whatever the high school version of it was, and they organized this meeting for us with the Governor General at that time, Dame Ivy Dumont, and I remember being so enamored because I grew up in abject poverty. Like, I grew up in an abandoned building for a portion of it until my older siblings were able to get us out of that situation.
Wow.
So to be able to have an opportunity now to go from, I'm looking at gutter and squire and everything. Shout out to my mom for keeping me inside. So people would never believe I grew up in the heart of the ghetto in an abandoned building because I don't give that.
You don't look like what you came out of.
I don't look like what I came out of.
Yeah.
But it's because of experiences like that, because I got the opportunity to interact and mingle with leading women, to see that there was more, to see that I didn't have to be a statistic. I went to R.M. Bailey, Pace of Pride. I loved my school.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is we were in the inner city. And so statistically, I ended up being a teen mom. But in my defense, I got married at 18, so I could have done that.
Now, hold on now. What come first, the chicken or the egg? Don't answer that.
I got married first. But that's
Kudos
another
to you. We
conversation.
love it. And you're still married. Say
I'm
that too.
still married
That's
to
it.
my
That's
amazing
it.
husband, Mr.
That's
Dominic
it.
Verance.
Shout out to Mr. Verance, my good client.
Yes. But yeah, so just the opportunity to be in spaces where there were women leadership, where it was prevalent, where it was obvious, where it was not something to be looked at as a biblical Jezebel moment, but women that added value and women that were elegant, were female, because they weren't like this other stereotype of a woman trying to be a man and look like a man, and so you got to become a man to operate in the space. No, these women were feminine, but they were poised and they were well-spoken and they were wise and they were powerful. And when they entered the room, you knew it. And so just having women in that space, I believe, the younger women coming up saw that. And so now people like me feel vocalized. We feel empowered that this is normal and this is how it should be. So I would be remiss now if I didn't champion the cause to say, okay, no, we need more of this. This helped to guide my life. This helped to cause me to aspire for more because of the amazing women that were in my family, the older sisters that I had, that I saw what a woman should look like. Because of the women in leadership, I saw that, okay, there is more, that marriage wasn't the only thing to aspire to. And I got that out of the way at 18. So what else did y'all want me to do? Did you want me just to aspire and just get married at 18? I would have been the end of the goals right there.
Yeah, listen.
So
the epitome, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is so powerful and so positive what you said, that there were women who showed you on the outside of where you lived what was possible.
Yes.
Because you couldn't see it on the inside. And just that imagery, right? Just to be able to see yourself in them, fostered that spark that let you know that I could do this.
Yes.
I can be this.
Mm-hmm.
I can desire more for myself, more for my life.
Yes.
And now your child doesn't have to have the same experience that you did. And now you and your husband are in this wonderful, beautiful partnership that I've been fortunate enough to be exposed to, how together you are striving to do right for your family and for your children. And I love that. And the thing about it is that when we talk about women and men in leadership, when we talk about coming together of these bright minds in both our men and our women, our boys and our girls, the truth of the matter is, when you do that, when women are in leadership, when women are included, problems are addressed holistically.
Yes.
Right? Not segmented, right? Not in pockets. Because the only thing we can do as women is think for our side, men think for their side. We don't think the same.
Exactly.
We need full representation of both parties. And the thing about it is, whether we agree or not, women leaders prioritize issues like family stability.
Yes.
We prioritize issues like gender-based violence. We prioritize issues like youth development. We prioritize issues like healthcare. We prioritize issues like education. We prioritize issues like community safety and development. So when we're not at the table, then those topics of conversation, and I'm not saying in every case, but by and large, they are not the driving priorities of the discussion.
Exactly.
So when we are there, these are the issues that are represented with more vigor, with more vitality, because that is what we bring when we come.
Yes.
And that is the appreciation that I want people to have when we talk about leadership. Diversity, this diversity leads to better decisions.
Yes.
Because you can think about everything. It is established that even mixed gender teams, when women and men are represented, they're more collaborative, more analytical, and more solution oriented. Because of the perspectives that are there. If we sat to this table and we just spoke with women, it would be a one-sided, biased conversation with the majority of us thinking very similarly and not a lot of diversity. But if we talked to this table with men and women who are on the pulse of what is happening nationally and what is going on in this country and the level of engagement. So for instance, now, just the calls. The majority, if not all of those calls, I think maybe to the exception of one, were men.
Yes.
Were men. And I said last week in the show, the female caller last week was my first female caller since I've been hosting the show, and that was show 3. This is show 4. And again, the men are dominating the conversation and chiming in. So this is never going to be, I would never be included in a conversation that tries to exclude men from it. We need allies in men.
Exactly.
We need partnership in men. We need men to buy into the notion that, listen, I need a sisters at this table. Even when you're doing building design, even when you're doing architecture, even when you're looking at how do we lay out this structure.
Yes.
The way men think and the way a man would design that building would be completely different if he has a female counterpart saying, let's consider this, let's consider that. I've been in establishments that have both men and women leadership. And if I just walk into the restroom of that establishment, I can sense the presence of a female's opinion and a female's voice in just the bathroom, right? Because I can see that someone who understands the needs of women designed this space. Someone who understands the needs of a mother, the feminine realities of a woman was in this space, and I have a different appreciation for it. You understand what I'm saying? And so, I can't stress it enough. Equity.
Yes.
Parity. Right? Inclusion.
Yes.
Together.
Exactly.
Those are the kind of adjectives we want to use to describe the kind of conversation that we're having. And we talked about democracy and we talked about politics, but women leaders strengthen democracy. People trust to a greater degree a woman in leadership. That's just the truth.
Yes.
And why do they do that? Because women in leadership tend to be more inclusive in our representation. So it means then that policies reflect the real experiences of another half of the population.
Yep.
Right? So when you have a woman with knowledge and experience and understanding, it increases trust in that institution. It increases trust, the trust level in that entity, in that organization. These are all truths.
Yes.
These are all truths. And I don't know what has been the level of your experience with that too.
Which part of it?
With just women in organizations, and how that is inured to the benefit of that organization's development, the increase, even economically. I want to make this point before you go on. When women participate greater in leadership, it even increases economic growth. Because it correlates to higher national productivity. All right? And this is a point. Female leaders invest at a greater degree in community well-being, education, and health. And these are areas that yield greater economic return even in the long run. So because these are the areas for which we seem to be more driven toward, and we focus on an investment in uplifting and building these areas, the outcome or the byproduct of that level of investment is long-term economic growth, sustained economic growth. And so, I'm excited to be a woman. I'm so happy that this is what God chose, to put my spirit in and have me occupy this earthly home and be a woman and bring everything that makes me woman to my leadership.
Yes.
And I love when I see men and women and other women in leadership, and they are of right character.
Yeah.
Listen, it is powerful, it is inspiring, it is thought-provoking, it encourages and uplifts me. You know what I mean? Just to know that, listen, here is someone who has done the work on themselves, not just educated themselves, not just had sufficient experience to say, I know what I'm doing, but done the internal work, the character work, to be people of good repute, to be people that know how to treat people, how to talk to someone, to be people that know how to manage authority and power, and to not be abusive, and to not be belittling and demeaning, but to actually build people up. When that kind of leader leads, come on, man, this is magic we're talking about. You know what I mean? This is magic, and I really want to hear your thoughts on that too.
Not magic, but Holy Spirit inspired. Yes, but that is so powerful. And I mean, and it's almost a shame that you have to keep qualifying the fact that this conversation does not mean to the exclusion of men, because I'm a boy mom. I don't want anyone excluding the men, because whose sons are you excluding? Not mine.
That's right.
And so just to be able to have a well-rounded conversation around the fact that, in the same way that I wouldn't want my son excluded or my sons excluded, I have an 18-year-old now, I would not want their wives excluded.
Wow.
Everyone should have an opportunity to actualize and be who God has called them to be. If the Bible says, in the last days, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh, who are we to say that we're going to hold a particular group back? Even if, unless you, I guess, subscribe to Jewish ideology and not Christian ideology, even if you believe that, definitely there was a curse, but if the veil's been torn, why are we still trying to?
And the veil has been ripped from the top to the bottom. The old tabernacle has been done away with. But we gotta have a religious show to talk about this. But that's why Joel said in the last days, God said, I'll pour out my spirit upon all flesh, sons and daughters. And we could get into that. That's a whole nother preach word, but we need women in leadership in this country. And we need men in leadership in this country. And I preface that on the right character of leadership. Because above and beyond what you are able to learn and grasp from a book and your experiences, if we have leaders who have not done the character work, who have not made sufficient investment in their own temperance and self-control to be able to know how to handle power and the opportunities that leaders are exposed to, and to not yield to corruption, and to not yield to being someone who is oppressive, to not yield to the temptation to build oneself when you're called to build the people. Character. I believe in women. I believe in women in leadership. But more importantly, I believe that the right leaders need to emerge in our country. This is not child's play. This is big people business. And in order for us to progress, to where we need to be, to where we ought to be, then we cannot be afraid to accept that leadership is needed. Real, true leadership. I'm not talking about leadership from a space of position. I'm talking about leadership from a space of purpose. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with some closing thoughts.
To my neighbors in Golden Isles, even the PLP candidate had to admit it. You've been ignored and neglected for years. 4 years in power, and now weeks before an election, they show up paving roads. But I never left you. I live here, I work here, and I serve you every single day. Let them know Golden Isles is not for sale. On November 24th, vote the name you know and trust, Brian Brown and the Free National Movement. I never forgot.
Paid for by the Free National Movement.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we are back, and I think that was our final break because we just have a few more minutes left in what has been a wonderful conversation, a wonderful discussion. And so we even gotta come to some wrap-up thoughts. I can't believe it's over, Manita. It's been such a pleasure hanging with you and talking with you today. And I want to say hi to my sister and friend, Glenette Rackley, who's locked in, and my baby sister, Creva, who's locked in, and my big sister who's locked in, Simone, and all of those who are listening and being so supportive and so encouraging. Even my big brother in Philadelphia, who's joining us online. And so it's great to know that all of those persons are listening and chiming into what's happening, even if they don't get a chance to text or call. And my cousin Brenny, my QBC, she says, I believe in women in leadership. She said, I believe women in leadership, aren't fighting for control. We're walking boldly in our purpose. Our ambition doesn't replace anyone. It raises the standard for everyone. She goes on to say, ambition in men is praised, while in women, it's often questioned or labeled as aggressive. Wow, that's powerful. And a texter on the Guardian text line says, to that caller, I think the humans take excerpts from the Bible out of context. If a man is miserable, they tell the woman to stay. When he says the woman is miserable and the head of the home is making her miserable, he leaves. But maybe God wants you, the husband, to change. By the way, men call you miserable. Let me see what she says. By the way, men call you miserable if you complain about them not making money, cheating, beating, drinking, and gambling. Happy wife. Happy life. This has been such an interesting conversation. Listening to the callers, reading some of the text, and just engaging in the way some persons think about a conversation like this. I think it solidifies why we need to have more conversations like this. We're not there yet. We're not there in our understanding. We're not there in our appreciation for the level of necessity. The biblical conversation is also necessary. And I'm definitely going to take one of these Fridays and bring some guests and delve into that, not elephant in the room, because the persons are very vocal. How based on our biblical understanding and interpretation, how does God feel about women in leadership? And when we say women in leadership and the mandate of God in that respect, and even when we quote these Bible passages and scriptures, where are we talking about? Where? What does that apply to? Because everything was written in context. Even the majority of the New Testament that was written by Paul, you will find that even when Paul wrote certain letters to certain churches, he talked about different things. Why? Because the problems there were specific, right? And and what the church in Corinth was going through, the church in Rome was not.
Exactly.
And he wrote by the inspiration, as we believe, of the Holy Spirit to address what was needed. And so when Paul talked about women, he said specifically what he said, because not only of what was happening in his spirit, what was happening in that church. And I hope we get into that, because boy, look here, that one could be sticky, and that's gonna be needed. I like that. But any final thoughts on this conversation? We're gonna continue it. I look forward to our conversation on Friday, the 28th of May. I'll put you on notice. We're talking about the suffrage movement, which is going to be the anniversary of it. Anniversary of it is going to be observed on November 26th. We're here on the 28th. We'll talk about that and talk about this more of this journey to leadership. But what are your final thoughts about this?
Women in leadership are needed. We're necessary, and we're here. It's not as if we're talking about a hypothetical situation of what if women wanted to lead. There are women now who have answered the call to leadership, and all that is being asked is, don't block the seat that's vacant and available. Or if you know that you're not fit and you're sitting in the seat, get up so that it doesn't have to be a vicious battle to get you out of it, because you really shouldn't have been there to begin with. I just think that once we become accepting of the fact that this is normal, this is not something abnormal, that a woman should lead when called and purpose ordained to do so. I always put that there, because some wild people, men and women who want to lead, should not be leading. Please, y'all, stop it. But the ones that should, stop opposing them. Let them do what God created them to do, because why would you defy God? Because that's really what you're doing at the end of the day. So since we've had a halfway religious conversation today, don't defy God's order. If God has ordained something, allow him to do what he's doing, because then you're in defiance.
Trouble. You serious? You serious, minute? I got to watch out for you. But listen, at the end of the day, and really the beginning of it too, we need leadership. We need leadership. We need leadership that is people-driven.
Yes.
Whether you're a man under the sound of my voice or a woman, the truth of the matter is, and if we stay in that same vein of our Bible, then it says to us that promotion does not come from the east, west, north, or south. Promotion comes from God. And the heart of the king is in the hand of God. So if you are in a position of leadership, then know that your promotion in some way, shape, or form has been sanctioned. And you have an obligation to ensure, because this is the part we don't see. Leadership is not glamour. Leadership is not perks.
Nope.
Leadership is not opportunity for self-elevation. Leadership is service.
Yes.
Focus on who you have been called to serve, and ensuring that when your tenure of leadership is over, they would have been lifted.
Yes.
That sect of people would have been better because you lead them. And I heard someone say something, and I have adopted this, and it has guided so much of my decisions in my own leadership journey. When you get an opportunity to lead, be the type of leader you wish you had.
Yes.
Be open, be honest, be inclusive. Be someone who gives opportunity. Be someone who doesn't hide someone in the back because you think their light shines brighter than yours does. Be someone that leaves the door wide open so that the person coming behind you doesn't have to knock or force their way through. They have an easier time because you went in first. Yes. Be that leader. We're talking about women in leadership. I am so excited. Thank you, Manita, for being part of the show today. Thank you to our producer, Chris. Thank you so much, Chris, for keeping us in line. We got to go, but listen, like I always tell you, and I want you to remember this, we do a lot of talking, but when you have something to say, remember, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So when you want to talk, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Measure it against those 3 checks and balances so that when you speak, something comes alive. This has been Robin Lyons in your company. Have a great, safe weekend. By the grace of God, I'll see you back right here, 2 to 4 on Friday. This has been Guardian Talk Radio, 96.9 FM.